Do you want me to repeat? Yeah. So the email that you sent this morning, it was just 114U. Is that the only correction to the spreadsheet? Okay.
Good morning. Welcome to the Medicare Advisory Panel on Clinical Diagnostic Laboratory Tests. My name is Rashida Arthur, and as a member of the Medicare Clinical Laboratory Fee Schedule Policy Team and the Division of Ambulatory Services, I am the designated federal officer for the CDLT panel. I would like to begin by expressing appreciation for those who are able to attend in person, acknowledge those listening via teleconference and watching online. I would also like to extend a welcome to the members of the Medicare Advisory Panel on Clinical Diagnostic Laboratory Tests who are present today, and a few panel members who are listening on the line. This meeting allows an opportunity for the CDLT panel to provide input and recommendations to the Secretary and the Administrator of CMS on the appropriate basis for establishing payment amounts for new or substantially revised healthcare Common Procedure Coding System, or HCPC codes, being considered for Medicare payment under the CLFS for the next calendar year. This meeting also provides a forum for the public to respond to direct questions posed by the CDLT panel members in a face-to-face, real-time manner. Please note that we will be discussing only the codes addressed in our Clinical Laboratory Fee Schedule, Calendar Year 2020 Test Code Updates file, which is also found on our CLFS Annual Laboratory Meeting webpage. Comments and recommendations on whether codes identified as gap fill codes from last year's final determination is a separate and distinct process that will not be discussed at this meeting. Consistent with the annual clinical lab fee schedule process, after consideration of the information from the ALM or the annual lab meeting, public comments, and today's CDLT panel recommendations, we generally post preliminary payment determinations on our website in September of each year. We accept additional public comments following the posting of the preliminary payment determinations through October of each year. Unlike a new crosswalk test, the payment amount for a new gap fill test is not established when we determine the basis for payment because it takes approximately 9 months from the CLFS for posting. In November of each year, we generally finalize the basis of payment for new and substantially revised test codes and the amount of payment through the annual CMS instruction implementing the updated CLFS for the next calendar year. The public has an additional 60 days from the date we issue our annual instruction, or in essence, the final payment determination, to request reconsideration of either the basis of payment, gap fill or crosswalk, or the amount of payment for a new and substantially revised test code. The public may comment on these reconsideration requests at the next CLFS annual public meeting. Once a code or a lab test has undergone a reconsideration cycle and the CMS has made second final determination on the code or test, the payment methodology is final. For any new test code that would be gap filled, we ask our Medicare contractors to develop carrier-specific gap fill amounts by April 1st of the following year. These amounts will then be finalized by September 30th of that year. Unlike a test crosswalk for a CLFS lab test code, the payment amount for a gap fill test is not established when we determine the basis for payment because it takes approximately 9 months for our contractors to establish carrier-specific amounts. After prices for gap fill codes are developed by the Medicare contractors, we will post them on our website and accept comments for 60 days after April the 1st. Later in the year, when the gap fill payment amounts are posted on the website as final, we'll accept reconsideration requests on the gap fill amounts for approximately 30 days. After the reconsideration process is complete for a cycle, the determination is final and would not be subject to further reconsideration. Lastly, I'd like to share a few housekeeping issues. Please note the following. If you're using electrical outlets in the wall, please sit next to the outlets and avoid running electrical cords across aisles and walkways to prevent others from tripping over the electrical cords. Copies of the agenda and Wi-Fi and connection instructions are available at the entrance of the auditorium. The restrooms and a water fountain are located outside the room toward the lobby on the left. The cafeteria is located at the lower level from the lobby in the back of the building. You can access the auditorium by either the elevator or the stairs. For taxi service, the guard desk in the lobby where you signed in can provide assistance. As a reminder, CMS is a smoke-free campus. Please place your electronic devices on silent or vibrate, and for teleconference participants, please place your phone on mute. For any comments or questions, please step up to the microphone provided on the floor, state your name and affiliation so all can hear you. If you have any questions during the course of this meeting, please do not hesitate to reach out to members of the Division of Ambulatory Services team. If you have follow-up questions or issues after this meeting, please submit all inquiries to the CDLT panel resource box at cdltpanel@cms.hhs.gov. Before I turn the meeting over to our panel chairperson and meeting facilitator, Dr. Karen Nakano, I'd like to introduce the management team of the Division of Ambulatory Services. Sarah Shiri-Loso, the director. Corinne Axelrod, the acting deputy director. This concludes my introductory and housekeeping comments. Now we'll hear a few remarks from Dr. Karen Nakano.
Okay, so we're here once again, and I just wanted to welcome everyone in the audience. Thank you for taking the time to submit your public comments to the ALM presentations and for taking the time to come and participate in this meeting. I also wanted to thank the panel members and also wanted to speak directly to the panel members now about some basic house rules of engagement. If you have a question, the process is to put your name placard up. You will be addressed by the chair in the order in which the placards went up. If you need information from an owner of the lab who may or may not be in the audience, you are to go through the chair. We are trying to be as efficient as possible, and if someone in the audience is to be addressed, they are to use the microphones here. Please speak into the microphone using your name and your affiliation. Also, in general, all microphones are off. You know it's off because at the top of the microphone is an area where you can either see the digital sign that it is on. You know it is on when you shift at the base of the microphone, a little switch that takes you from the circle indicating no power to a straight line with power. So that microphone needs to be turned off. Thank you. Also, and this is for the audience, as we go through the codes, if we are ahead of schedule, we will continue to go on to the next session. We can never really tell how long a given code will take for discussion, but we will be doing that accordingly. There are a few slides that I think I would like to run through. This is a list of the name of the panel members. Some of them are new. You can see their sources of nomination. And I just wanted to let the audience know that as we did last year where we instituted the use of subcommittees, where the list of codes are randomly divided up, and then each of the 4 subcommittees are assigned a list of codes, their sole purpose is to provide suggestions to the panel so that they can have a more robust conversation and identify if questions will be needed from the lab itself. It's also important to understand that the subcommittees are not making the final recommendations to CMS. The panel will do that based on how they vote for a given gap fill, crosswalk, or even if they need to recuse themselves for various reasons. As we did last year, we are trying to be as efficient as possible given the double and tripling of the number of codes that need to be reviewed. So we have divided the codes up by anatomic area and or by the resources and types of methodologies used for that given test. So having said that, do any of the panel members have questions? Okay, thank you. So what I'd like to do is go to session 1. As you can see in the first slide, it consists of 2 categories, microbiology and the hematopoietic related tests, and you can see that for microbiology, there are 12 codes, and for the hematopoietic-related tests, there are 4. So we're going to go to the first code, which is 0064U, and this is a treponema-pallidum-related test. It was reviewed by Subcommittee A. Here are the crosswalks that were identified from a single lab, plus 2 societies who gave comments. I'm going to turn this over to Subcommittee A.
Good morning. This is Aaron Bossler from Subcommittee A, representing with Vicki Baselski and Karen Carroll. So the recommendation we're making is to crosswalk to 86780 plus 86318. This is based on the fact that we agree with the rationale of the presenter and several of the specialty societies with this recommendation.
Do we have any questions or comments from the panel members regarding Subcommittee A's recommendation for a crosswalk of 86780 plus 862592? If you have any questions, please raise your placard and we will identify you, or you can identify yourself before speaking. So can the moderator confirm that Doctors Chandra, Hansen, and Baselski have their lines open?
Yes, their lines are open.
Thank you. Do these panel members have questions? Okay. So it's my understanding then, without any further discussion, that the crosswalk that is to be voted on is 86780 plus 86592. Before I do that, do the panel members have any questions for the lab owner? And is the lab owner from, I believe it's Biorad Labs, are they here? No questions? All right. Dr. Bossler?
I just need to correct you. The recommendation is 86780 plus 86318.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yes, so on your screen, I won't do this every time, but just since this is the first one, on your screen you should see the code, the various options. You should see the recommendation from the subcommittee. If you don't, go ahead and refresh your screen. But if you do see it, then go ahead and click on your vote. I'm able to tally the results and see, and we'll wait until the magic number, I believe, of 14 is met. So I click on that. Does anybody not see it on their screen? We're almost there. That's it. We're all in.
All right, we're going to move on to the next code, and that is 0065U. This is also a syphilis-related test. It was also reviewed by Subcommittee A. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Bossler.
So the subcommittee recommends a crosswalk to 86318, and this was based on the rationale from the owner of the code and the specialty societies.
Do we have any questions from the panel members regarding the crosswalks that have been suggested by one laboratory, two societies, the subcommittee 86138? There was one specialty society that recommended or suggested 86592. Any questions from the panel members here? For the moderator, do we have the lines unmuted for the three panel members to raise any questions? And so if the panel members online do have questions, please let us know now.
Yes, the lines are unmuted.
Thank you. Great. So hearing none, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and vote for the crosswalk of 86318 or 86592. Are we good?
Just give me 1 minute, please.
Thanks.
Okay, did everybody vote? It's working for everyone? Okay, just one second, please.
For the folks who are listening, we are looking into a little bit of a technical question, and we will be letting you know shortly when the voting has been completed. So what I'd like to do is ask the panel members to please pull out your contingency ballots and to cast your vote for code 2B as in boy 0065U. Your choices are crosswalk 86318, 86592. So for this one, I expect to see all of the panel members, even those on the line, to have cast their vote for 0065U via paper. This will mean that everyone should also sign and the first page, date it, and you should have initials in the last column of your ballot. When you are complete, please put your name placard up because we're going to move on to the next code. Dr. Carroll, Dr. Lyon, Dr. Kroc, Arcila, Dr. Hamilton, Dr. Harris, Dr. Contis, are you all complete with
Not yet.
your voting?
Shortly.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Hamilton, you good to go?
Yes.
And then Dr. Arcila, I cannot see your placard. Is it up?
Oh, sorry.
All right. And then the folks on the line, Drs. Hansen, Chandra, and Baselski, please indicate that you are finished with the use of the paper ballot. So that's one. Dr. Chandra and Dr. Hansen.
I'm working on the paper ballot as we speak.
And Dr. Baselski, I think you're complete, or was that Dr. Hansen?
I'm complete.
Dr. Hansen?
Complete.
Thanks. All right. So, Dr. Chandra, can we move on?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Placards can go down. We're going to move on to the next code, and that is 0068U. It's also a microbiology code. It is a Canada species code, and the subcommittee is A, and I'm going to let them continue the discussion through Dr. Bossler.
So there were no presentations for this code. So the subcommittee evaluated it and looked into the method. It's real-time PCR for 6 Canada species. So we considered that this could potentially fit into the panel code for respiratory viruses 6 to 11 targets. This is 87632. And so that's our primary recommendation, but it could potentially be gap-filled as well, since there were no presentations on this.
Thank you. Do any of the panel members want to comment? Dr. Schoonmaker, and then Dr. Hamilton?
Sure.
No? Okay. Dr. Schoonmaker?
Hi. Did you consider 87481, Canada Species Amplified Probe Technique?
No.
What was the code again?
87481.
And what is your rationale for suggesting that?
The descriptor is Canada Species Amplified Probe Technique.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from Doctors Hansen, Chandra, Baselski?
And I guess my question would be, does it make a difference if they're reported out individually, or if this is or if this 87481 is just a multi-species code? Yes, no, something's present.
I know that there's multiple real-time PCRs that are performed. I think it's just reported out as whatever is, whatever the result is for all of those. So it's a single result. But there are multiple analytes. So that's why we were leaning towards the panel code.
This is Vicki Basowski. May I speak?
Yes.
We didn't consider 87481, just as Dr. Vossler indicated, because that would be a single result. That would have involved using a replicate of that, and replicates and the efficiencies of multiplex have already been addressed in the panel code, so that's why we went that direction.
Do we have any other comments from Doctors Hansen or Chandra?
No.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the panel members? So am I to understand that it is gap fill versus 87632? Is that where we are currently at with the panel? If the answer is yes, please put your placards up. Or so is that where we're at?
Yes.
All right. All those who want to say that we're going to vote on 87632 and gap fill, just raise your hand. Okay. So we have the majority. And can Doctors Hansen, Chandra, and Baselski confirm that by saying you agree or you don't agree?
Agree.
Agree.
Dr. Hansen?
Agree.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to say then the next thing we're going to do is try our electronic ballots for crosswalk 87632 and gap fill. And
Okay.
Sarah?
Please go back to the browser where you're pollev.com. Make sure when you click the option, just leave the click alone. Don't unclick it. Somehow the numbers are like going up and down, which they shouldn't. So make sure that once you click that it's highlighted, you leave it highlighted, don't touch it.
Dr.
Okay,
Bossler?
we're going.
I have a question
Go
for
ahead
Sarah.
and click it. All right, don't touch it. Good, good. Can I see your screen, sir? Okay, very good, very good, very good. Okay, we're going to confirm.
Sarah, Dr. Bossler?
Yes, sir.
At what point should we hit the clear last response?
Never.
Oh, okay.
You leave that to me. You should not have that power. All right, we have
believe we all do.
14. That's too much power for this group. Okay. Yes, in fact, Dr. Bossler, you were our villain for the last code.
That's what I wondered.
Yes.
All right, so Sarah, anything else?
No, ma'am. We are good to go to the next code. This is working perfectly. Thank you.
All right, so we're on item number 4, microbiology, category 0086U. We're going to move on to subcommittee B. This is an infectious disease, bacterial, and fungal related identification test. And for subcommittee B, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Chandra.
Thank you, Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we did discuss this as a subcommittee, and our consensus recommendation was to gap fill because we could not find an appropriate existing CPT code that was suitable for a crosswalk.
Any comments from those on the line and or here in the central office? Any questions, concerns? Does anybody have questions for the owner of this lab test? Okay, so I'm going to say then, it sounds like the ballot item is for gap fill. So please go ahead and cast your vote for 0086U.
Okay, make sure everybody clicks on an option.
And just so, Dr. Carroll has a question for Sarah. So those on the phone, just know that we are ensuring that we are using this new software appropriately. So please bear with us.
I have a conflict of interest, so you should abstain.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next code. It's 0096U, also microbiology, and this is an HPV-related test. And subcommittee B, as in boy, is the primary reviewer. And I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Chandra.
Thank you, Karen. Our consensus recommendation was that we agree with the society recommendations, and the CPT code 87624 is the most appropriate CPT code to crosswalk.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, concerns from the panel? Those on the phone? Any questions for the owner of the lab? Okay, so please cast your vote. We have a single crosswalk of 87624. Okay, so we're moving on to item number 6, 0097U. This is a GI pathogen test with 22 targets which are listed. This is also reviewed primarily by Subcommittee B, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Chandra.
So we discussed this CPT code as well as I believe the following 3 additional CPT codes kind of fall in the same category. There were presentations that were made at the annual meeting where the owner of the CPT code felt that this was a novel technology and recommended gap fill. And so we would agree with that gap fill recommendation for 0097U.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns from the panel members here on the phone? So I have a question for the panel. The single specialty society that recommended the 87507, can the panel please comment on the question that is asked in the slide, and that is, does the methodology or technologist time warrant an additional code? Can you please comment on that? Especially if the infectious diseases folks have any comment, that would be very helpful. And then also, Dr. Carroll?
Yes, I would say that I would agree with the professional society on this one.
For
0097U and through 00100U, that this should not be gap fill. I don't see rationale for why this should be gap fill.
What is your, so you agree with the rationale from the specialty society?
Yes.
Okay. Is Dr. Hansen on the line?
Yeah, thanks. This is Kim Hansen. I have a little different take on this. I agree with gap fill because I think this technology is much simpler than the way that initial code was established. This technology is fully automated, integrated, very minimal technologist hands-on time. where I think the initial codes were established with a method that was much more labor-intense, complex, took the lab, 8 hours to run. This can be completed in an hour. And even though the targets are similar, the method and hands-on time is much different.
I'm sorry, and the hands-on time is less for the PLA code 0097U relative to 87507?
Correct. For the PLA code, hands-on time is on the order of 5 minutes or so. For the original crosswalk code, it was hours and ran over, an 8-hour shift with multiple steps.
This is Vicki Basowski. May I speak?
Yes, you may.
I agree with the Specialty Society 87507. At the time that code was submitted, it was already a relatively automated procedure, and I see nothing in this new PLA descriptor that differentiates it from the original code.
Does the panel have questions for the infectious diseases specialty colleagues? Okay. I am curious, is BioFire here in the audience? Yes, right here. Yes, will you please approach the mic? And I would like to find out, if you could, if you turn it to the straight line, and then the light will go on. Okay, and
No, I'm okay. That's nice.
so please introduce yourself and let us know, confirm that you're from BioFire, sir.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Dan Snow, Director of Reimbursement and Market Access for BioFire Diagnostics out of Salt Lake City.
So my question for you is, how is this PLA significantly different from 87507?
I think the discussion that's being made on the hands-on time and the technology, the advancement in the technology and the ease of use, it's probably on this particular one, probably has the best argument that it falls somewhere in the middle. In other words, this code was established a little later than the 3 subsequent codes that you'll see. And so, but it has, even in those 3 or 4 years, the cost to acquire and run the test has decreased significantly. And so that's why we feel that gap fill is appropriate, that it's not priced appropriately. In discussion with the MACs, we've already had the discussion, and they would agree with that as well. But on this one in particular, I could see the argument either way, and so it didn't surprise me, quite frankly, that it's probably split on that. Does that answer your question? As far as the targets, Dr. Carroll, right? You're exactly right, and I think it was Dr. Hansen as well. You're exactly right. The description is identical. It matches. Now, when you see the subsequent codes for the respiratory panels, they don't, but this one does.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to ask a very, very simple question. Why did you create this test if it is so much more similar to the current code or crosswalk of 87507?
Because we felt that the reimbursement rate was too high. I know that's counterintuitive to a lot, but we just felt it was. The cost, again, to acquire, to run the test has decreased significantly.
Okay, thank you. People on the phone, do you have any questions? And does the panel have any questions or concerns? Okay. I'm sorry, can you please say your name again slowly?
Yes, Dan Snow, S-N-O-W.
Thank you, because the transcriptionists are going to want to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so it appears that we are at the point where we're going to vote, and then the crosswalk of 87507 and gap fill are your options, so please cast your vote. All right, so let's go on to item number 7, 98U. This is a respiratory pathogen test where they're looking at 14 targets, also reviewed primarily by subcommittee B. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Chandra.
Thank you, Karen. And again, for the reasons that have been discussed on the previous CPT code, we would agree with the owner of the CPT code and agree with a gap fill recommendation here.
Thank you. Any other comments from those on the phone? Questions, concerns? For the panel members here in central office, any discussion? Any questions for the owner of the code? All right, so we have 2 suggestions for gap fill and to crosswalk to 87633. Here are your ballot items. I apologize, I should say ballot items. We're waiting. It's thinking.
We're waiting for one person, so make sure that a selection, thank you.
All right, we're good to go. So we're going to move on to the next item, which is 0099U, also a respiratory pathogen test, now looking at 20 targets, subcommittee B, Dr. Chandra.
Thank you, Karen. We recommend gap fill and agree with the owner of the CPT code for that recommendation.
Any questions from those on the phone? Concerns? Discussion points? Anything from the floor here in central office? Okay. Any questions for the owner of the lab? On the phone? Okay, so the ballot items are crosswalk 87633 and gap fill. Please submit your vote. Okay, let's move on to the next code, which is it should be 00100U, and another respiratory pathogen test, 20 targets, and subcommittee B, Dr. Chandra, please go ahead.
Thank you, Karen. We recommend gap fill.
Comments from those on the phone or on the floor here at central office? Any questions for the owner? All right, so it seems to be that the ballot items are crosswalk 87633 and gap fill. Please cast your vote. Okay, let's go to the next code, 8XXXX. And this is an infectious diseases detection test. I'm going to turn this over to subcommittee C.
Thanks, Karen. This is Bill Clark. So for this particular one, we didn't have anybody with infectious disease or microbiology expertise on this, so we are going to solicit some feedback from the other subcommittees. But our consensus based on looking at the descriptor was a crosswalk to 87491. That's a different organism, but the descriptor was very similar. The crosswalk is for chlamydia, and this is for Mycoplasma genitalium. So our proposal is crosswalk to 87491.
Do we have any comments from those on the phone? And then Dr. Carroll would like to speak here in the auditorium.
Yeah, I think that's very appropriate.
Okay. Dr. Hansen? Dr. Baselski? No comment? All right.
No comment.
Thank you. All right, so your crosswalk item is 87491. Please cast your vote. All right, we're going to move on to the next code, 0109U. This is another infectious disease. This is Aspergillus species, and I'm going to turn this over to Subcommittee C.
Thank you.
Dr. Clark.
So in this one, this is for Aspergillus, and just in looking at the molecular microcodes, we had a consensus based on feedback from Drs. Lyon and Arcilla of 87623, which is HPV, but they list 5 targets here. For example, 611, 42, 43, and 44. And since this was a similar number of targets, that's the crosswalk we selected, although we could probably be convinced for a gap fill if those aren't comparable. That's this code and the next one are the ones we really need the feedback from someone with a microbiology background.
Okay, thank you. I want to go to the phone, and if the folks on the phone want to comment and lend their input on this code based on Dr. Clark's request and comment. Dr. Baselski or Dr. Hansen, do you have any comments?
This is Vicki Baselski. If these are indeed 4 unique targets, I would suggest that one of the multiplex codes might be appropriate. There is not one for fungus, but we've gone through this with other syndromic situations as well. So one of the multiplex codes, respiratory, for example, might be appropriate. I'm trying to see what that is. The one that has the appropriate number of targets.
So Dr. Baselski, we're going to go on to a few more comments in the room. So this will give you time to go ahead and check on other multiplex code suggestions. Before we go to Dr. Schoonmaker, I want to find out if Dr. Hansen has any comments.
I guess my only comment is that it may be a little more complicated for extraction and detection from tissue and blood as well, which could be different than other existing multiplex codes from respiratory samples. I don't think this lab provided information on kind of the process and resources, but that might be one consideration in favor of gap fill.
That is correct. We did not receive anything from the lab. All right, Dr. Schoonmaker.
Yes, hi. My question is for Dr. Baselski. Following the rationale for code 0086U for the Canada species, where each target was going to be reported independently, if that's indeed the case for this code, would you maybe consider crosswalking to 87631, which is a 3 to 5 target code?
This is Vicki Baselski. That's exactly the code that I was struggling to come up with, 87631, 3 to 5 targets.
Because I think my understanding of the 87623 is that it's reported once for the 5 codes. They're not reported out independently.
That's correct.
Any other comment from those on the phone? Any comment from those here in the central office? So is it my understanding that the committee is suggesting the crosswalk, the additional crosswalk of 87631? Is that correct? If yes, raise your hand. Yes, if you agree. Okay, can you hold it up and keep it there so I can see Dr. Hamilton? Okay. And then so that's, I think it's all but one unanimous. And then on the phone, do you also agree, the Doctors Chandra, Hansen, and Baselski?
Yes.
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 Okay, so, the ballot items are gap fill, 87623, and this additional code of 87631. Is that correct?
Can I just take a moment to confirm that that fourth option has shown up on your poll? Excellent.
So it's the fourth one because recusal is an option.
That's correct. If you haven't already, go ahead and vote. Oh, we have a question on the floor, Dr. Nakano.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, feel free to pull it off the stand. You don't have to restrict it to the stand. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to go back.
So can you introduce yourself first?
Oh, I'm Dr. Elaine Lyon.
Thanks.
I want to go back to, I think, Kim Hansen, you commented about the sample preparation. And so that was one of my questions with using the crosswalk to the 87623 is the amount of work with the different sample types and sample preparations. Does that concern still hold for the 87631 to consider the different amount of work with that to 0109U for potentially the need to consider gap fill again?
So let me just make sure. Okay, so we are on the verge of voting on this, right? So you are questioning if we should discuss fuller rationale for gap fill? Is that where you're going with that, Dr. Lyon?
Yes, so my question was, is there an appropriate crosswalk, and and these other codes, either the 87623 or the 87631, and the amount of work because of the different in specimen types, is that an issue? I think I heard Kim saying that it was.
So Dr. Hansen, can you respond back to Dr. Lyon's clarification question?
Yes, I agree, Elaine. I do think relative to the potential crosswalk that was just raised, that the specimen type may make this test more complex with more resource upfront for nucleic acid extraction.
Any other questions? So again,
So I have a question. This is Bill Clark.
Yes.
So, but this code, so there's more work that would be for the tissue or some of the more complex sample types, but this code also encompasses blood and fluids, which presumably would be less work from my perspective. So since it's kind of encompassing these multiple sample types, if we adjust the crosswalk for the more complex sample type, what does that do for the more simple sample types? It seems kind of a thorny issue there. But I don't do molecular testing, so I would.
So I'm going to turn this over to the microbiology specialist. So does Dr. Carroll, and I'm sorry for separating you guys out, but we need your help. So do the microbiology or the specialists want to address Dr. Clark's concern? Because I have the same concern. The code clearly states, the code descriptor is blood, lavage fluid, or tissue. So does anybody want to respond to that before
Well, so I guess if I can clarify maybe to bring the request to more of a point. You know, if you, let's say you increase the reimbursement because of the complex tissue extraction, but if that's the least likely sample that you would use, then maybe that's not warranted. But if it's the most likely sample you would use, then accounting for that additional effort would be appropriate. So out of, you know, blood, lavage, and tissue, is there a more common specimen type?
So that gets along the lines in the CPT realm of what's typically done for this test. And unfortunately, we do not have the lab folks here unless some of the clinicians who may have a forte in pulmonary tissue samples, what is the more typical sample that is going to be sent to the pathologist? Is it blood, lavage, or lung tissue? Dr. Carroll?
Yeah, so I think given this pathogen that we're talking about is Aspergillus and infrequently is a cause of fungemia, it's most likely that this will be applied to BAL samples and pulmonary tissue biopsies. In that case, I do think extraction methods for fungus from those sources are likely to be a little bit more complicated than a standard blood assay.
Any other questions? So it appears then that we are talking about gap fill, 87623 and 87631. So please cast your vote. Okay. Let's move on to the next code, which is 0115U. It is the last of the microbiology codes, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Clark from Subcommittee C.
Thank you. So this was a similar rationale as we approached the proposed crosswalk, which is 87633, and that was because it's a multiplex assay, and there were 20 targets in the descriptor, and the 87633 is 12 to 25 targets, multiplex PCR and amplified probe technique. So that's our proposed crosswalk pending feedback from the microbiology experts.
Any comment from those on the line? Any comment from those here in the audience? Any questions? Any further questions for discussion? Unfortunately, the owner is not here or made themselves known. So why don't we go ahead and for 0115U, the crosswalk 87633 and gap fill will be your options for voting on. Okay, so let's go on to the second category, and that's hematopoietic related tests, and that the next test is item 130084U, and this is a test related to sickle cell disease, and it was primarily reviewed by Subcommittee B, as in boy, so Dr. Chandra.
Thank you, Karen. We discussed this PLA code and felt that the CPT code 001U is a reasonable CPT code reflecting similar resources, and we recommend that for a crosswalk.
Okay, anybody on the phone have questions, concerns, comments? How about here in the central office? Anybody have questions for the owner of this test? is the owner here? Griffles, thank you. All right, so it appears then that your crosswalk and is 0001U, and please cast your ballot. Okay, so let's go on to the second code in the hematopoietic related test, item 140121U, and another sickle cell disease related code of using the microfluidic flow adhesion VCAM1 to hold blood. And this is with subcommittee D as in dog. And I'm going to turn that over to subcommittee D. And I believe it's Dr. Hamilton.
All right. This one is a bit difficult to deal with. It's a microfluidic assay, and from the description, the proposed crosswalk does not appear to be appropriate. So we recommend a gap fill, a different methodology.
Do we have any other comments from the members here in central office? Any comments from those on the phone? Do we have the owner of this Lab 0121U here in the audience? Okay, hold on a second. Anybody have questions, especially Subcommittee D, because there was some question raised during the review? Dr. Bossler?
Yeah, I'm just curious, the owner of the code presented a crosswalk. Why did you guys rule that out?
Subcommittee D, do you want to provide your rationale for why the owner of the code's crosswalk of 86352 was not felt to be appropriate and gap fill was felt to be more appropriate?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Dr. Contas. So we felt, or I certainly felt, and the group agreed that the methodology was significantly different. And I'm not quite sure about the time for specimen preparation, but it would seem to me to be perhaps less labor intensive. But I think but primarily the basic differences in methodology.
So
Okay,
is that
thanks.
something you would, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Bossler.
I just said thank you.
Okay, is that something you would like to have the owner of the lab address? Or,
Certainly, that would be fine.
great, so can we have the owner of this lab come to the microphone? Thank you. And is this Dr. Cunningham?
Not doctor,
Okay, Mr. Cunningham. So you go ahead and pull the mic out if you need to. And then, yeah, there's a little switch at the base.
To zero?
No, if zero will turn it off. I mean, so yes, so just please give us your name, your company name.
Hi, John Cunningham, COO of Functional Fluidics in Detroit, Michigan.
And I believe, Dr. Costas, you want to repeat your question for Mr. Cunningham?
Hi. So we were comparing the methodologies described for 86352, and to me, they appeared to be significantly different, primarily in the resources used. And you use the microfluidic plate and the code that you are proposing to crosswalk uses a luminometer, and from what I understand, your methodology is different than that in detecting. Also the other question is in terms of what does the microscope do in terms of the methodology? I see here that there is a microscope component. And also you report out an adhesion index, is that correct? And I believe that is different from what the result is reported with the other code, with the crosswalk code. So maybe you could expound on that.
Yeah, sure. So certainly recognizing that the 86352 is a different type of test and has a different target. However, it's the closest code that we could find that was a blood cell function assay, and we believe that it has similar resources required to perform the test, certainly in terms of the care that's required for collecting the sample and shipping a sample as a blood function assay. This assay and the following assay are both, they'll be considered, are both cell adhesion assays that create, that provide a cell adhesion index to the clinician. The process is a microfluidic plate is coated with a protein that simulates the microvasculature. The sample is flown across the channel. The microscope is used to collect a series of micrographs that are then enumerated to create the cell adhesion index. And the time required currently is about 2 hours of lab time, of both bench time and also analysis time of images to report out the assay.
Any other questions? So my question for you, Mr. Cunningham, you said 2 hours to do the bench time plus the analysis, or it's 2 hours plus 2 hours?
No, it's about, for this assay, it's about 1 hour of bench time and 1 hour of analysis time.
Great, thank you. Anybody on the phone have questions for Mr. Cunningham? Okay, we have a question here from Dr. Lyon.
Could somebody explain a little bit more what this cellular function assay is with the 86352?
So
I'm
do
not
you have
familiar with that.
Okay, great.
method.
Is that a question for Mr. Cunningham? I just want to, because let him sit down if we're not going to ask any more questions.
If he knows what that is,
perfect.
Then fine.
Yeah, so Dr. Cunningham, would you be able to answer her question of what the difference is?
We don't have detailed information about what the complete process for 86352. We understand it's that the blood is collected, the T cells are separated using a magnetic bead, and then the antigens are identified.
Do you have more questions?
So I'm wondering if somebody on the panel could also chime in a little bit more about what the 86352, the comment here is that because not using T cells.
I have the PowerPoint from the original presentation. And in terms of, they do use T cell antigen, they stimulate the sample with T cell antigens, mix it with magnetic beads, and apparently the result is reported as ATP concentration compared with healthy control, as opposed to what Mr. Cunningham is saying that you have an adhesion index, which is reported. I'm not quite sure what 86352, what analyte they're looking at, but T-cell antigen mixture is a component of the methodology, and it would seem to me that the steps involved are completely different. So,
Dr. Lyon, has that helped? Would you like to ask?
yeah, I'm just reading from the PowerPoint. The 86352 also uses a luminometer to detect the ATP concentration. And I believe your detection system, Mr. Cunningham, is different, if I'm correct?
Yes, correct.
I mean, it's the microfluidic plate. Yeah. So that's all I can tell you.
Do we have any other questions for other members on the panel or for Mr. Cunningham? Anybody on the phone? Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. I appreciate it.
Should I
Okay.
turn this off?
I think just leave it on because it's be easier for the next person. Okay, so it's sounding like from this discussion that the codes to, and again, I apologize for this, it should say ballot items is 86352 and gap fill. So please cast your ballots. Okay, so we're going to go on to item number 15. It's 0122U. This is another sickle cell disease related test, and it is also a code in which the primary reviewers were subcommittee D as in dog, and I'm not sure if Dr. Hamilton wants to start the conversation.
Well, I think this discussion is basically similar to the previous one, and seems to be a fair amount of disagreement, so I think it would stick with the gap fill recommendation.
Okay, any questions or comments from the people on the phone? The folks here in the central office? Any questions for the owner of this code from those on the phone or here in the room? All right, so and again, another error on my part, should say ballot items. Your crosswalk is 86352 and gap fill. All right, so the next item is 0123U, and this is the last code for Category 2 of Session 1. And this code is another RBC-related test, and it was also reviewed primarily by Subcommittee D as in dog. And so, Dr. Hamilton?
Well, again, the methodology on this is somewhat unclear, but doesn't seem to be well related to the 86352, and some recommendations for gap fill.
All right. Any comments from other folks here in the room, on the phone? Any questions for the owner of the lab? Any questions from those on the phone? No questions from here? Your ballot items are 86352 and gap fill for code 0123U. And we're good. Okay, so we have, let me get my agenda out. So session 1, we're doing a very good job, efficient job. So what I'd like to do, since it's 10 o'clock, is give everybody, Sure, I'm sorry.
So I'm sorry, I know I'm going to be between you and a break, but since we had a couple of bumps just at the very beginning of the session, I was hoping maybe to just bring everybody back and re-vote on the first couple of codes, if that's okay. Again, I know this is out of order, and I'm probably going to stress out Dr. Nakano, and I apologize, but it'll just mean that we have everything consistently collected for the purpose of the results. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do, if anybody doesn't want to do this because they don't remember what they voted for, we can X this out. But this is for the first code of 64U. Does everybody remember what they voted for that's in front of them, or to be able to do this? Is everybody, if anybody's not comfortable with this, please raise your hand and we won't.
You're talking about the very first code.
The very first code.
All right, let me get the slide deck there, hold on. All right, so the first code is 0064U. It's a Treponema Paladin code. Your crosswalk choices are 86780 plus 86318 and 86780 plus 86592. So I believe the request is for everyone, including those on the phone, to recast their votes for item 1, 0064U. I'm going to take the slide deck back to the summary of public comments so you can see that.
Perfect.
So hold on, let us tally things up, and then we're going to move on to the second code, which I believe we need to re-vote on.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go to the second code, 0065U. This is a syphilis test, non-treponema antibody immunoassay, qualitative RPR, reviewed by Subcommittee A. You see the summary of crosswalks, and your crosswalk from the lab in 2 societies, 86318, 1 specialty society recommended 86592, and the CDLT Subcommittee A felt that 86318 was most appropriate. So your ballot items are 86318 and 86592.
$65U was what we did the paper ballot for, right?
No, it was,
65U.
65U was paper? Okay.
yes, I'm sorry,
Then
that is
we're-
correct.
Then we're caught up. Thank you. Back to next steps from Dr. Nakano. Thank
Okay,
you.
so since we are doing well, what I'd like to do is let everybody take a break. It is currently 10:13, and we will start promptly at 10:25. I know that's not a big break, but this would be important if we can move ahead. Thank you.
tell you 1 second. 62U.
All right. I believe we are set to continue on to the beginning of session 2, which is really going to category 3 of chemistry. And in this category, we have 29 codes we'd like to cover. We're going to move to the first item in this category of chemistry, which is item 17. And that is code 0062U. And this is an autoimmune-related test for SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus. And this was covered by Subcommittee A. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Bossler. So we're having difficulty with some of the microphones out here, so I'm going to give my microphone to Dr. Bossler.
Okay, so Subcommittee A reviewed this code, and our recommendation is to gap fill. We could not find any other methodology in the CLFS that appeared to be similar to this testing, which is an indirect ELISA using a microarray and semi-quantitatively measuring antibody levels, and then reporting the result as an algorithm. So our recommendation was to gap fill.
Okay, any comments from those on the phone? Doctors Chandra, Hansen, and Baselski, just let me know if the answer is no so that I know you're back with us after the break.
No question.
Okay.
No question.
Dr. Hansen? Okay, great. Anybody?
question.
Okay, thank you. And then in the room for code 0062U, questions for this for your panel members. And then, unfortunately, the owner of this code did not present nor provide public comments. So at this point, if there are no other questions or discussion, we're going to move on to the ballot item, which is gap fill. So if the panel members could vote accordingly. All right, we're going on to the next item, 180063U, also another chemistry code. It is neurology related for autism, and I'm going to turn this over to Subcommittee A, Dr. Bossler.
Yes, so our recommendation was to gap fill this code. There was a recommendation from the presenter for a crosswalk, but we didn't feel that the technologies were similar enough between these two. So our recommendation was for gap fill.
Do we have any questions for the other panel members from Subcommittee A here in the room or from the phone? And then Dr. Schoonmaker?
Hi, did you consider, it looks like there's a couple other mass spec codes. Would it matter if they are for drug monitoring? Would it matter if it was for drug monitoring versus amine detection? There's 011U and 0051U.
I don't think that we looked at those. Which ones were they again, Michelle?
There's 0011U is prescription drug monitoring by LC mass spec, oral fluid, reported as comparison to estimated steady state range, and then 0051U, prescription drug monitoring, urine 31 drug panel, reported as quantitative results, detected or not detected.
So I think the challenge with those is they're relatively straightforward reporting results, a quant or a qual, and there's an algorithm included here.
As opposed to the signature?
Yes.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Any other questions? So are we, Dr. Schoonmaker, pulling those off the table for consideration for crosswalk, the two that you just mentioned?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Any questions for the owner of this test? And do we have the owner here? Is, I believe it's Stamina Biomarker Discovery. Okay, so they are not here. Okay. Any discussion? So it appears then that we have the options for 0063U, crosswalk 0003U, and gap fill.
Good.
All right, item 19, 0066U. This is a code which Subcommittee A reviewed, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Bossler.
So our recommendation was to crosswalk to 87808 as the methodology and specimen type are similar to 0066U. And if I remember correctly, this is cervicovaginal fluid is the specimen. It's the same in both of these, or likely the same for 87808, and that it was immunoassay, kind of like a stick absorption for direct optical observation. So we thought that those were similar.
Thank you. I'm going to start with those on the phone. Any other comments that you want to make about the current recommendations for gap fill or 87808? Questions? Questions for your panel member colleagues? How about the panel members? Any questions regarding the two suggestions for gap fill or crosswalk 87808? Okay, please cast your vote for gap fill or crosswalk 87808.
Okay.
All right, item number 20, code 0067U. This is an oncology test for breast, and it was reviewed by the Subcommittee A, Dr. Bossler.
So our recommendation is to gap fill. The technology here is immunohistochemistry, and there's no similar codes that describe this method existing in CLFS. So our recommendation is to gap fill.
Any questions from folks on the phone? Any concerns? Dr. Hamilton in the room?
Yeah, a clarification on this. This appears to be an immunohistochemistry assay. Is this multiplex or individual testing? It's done for the tissue.
So I'm not sure. We would have to ask the submitter, and they didn't provide any information at the public meeting or during the comment period. I know that it's IHC, and I know that there's an expression score combined with a validated algorithm to report this out for the risk of developing breast cancer.
So that was going to be my second question, was if there are any details available on the algorithm.
Not that I'm aware of.
Any other questions? Okay, so it sounds like then we are left with the single suggestion coming from the ALM public comments as well as the subcommittee review for gap fill. So please cast your vote.
Okay.
So let's go to item 210077U. This is another code which was reviewed by Subcommittee A, and we're going to turn this over to Dr. Bossler.
So our recommendation is to gap fill. There were some presentations that also supported the gap fill, as there are no similar methods to crosswalk this to.
Any comments from those on the phone here in the room? Any questions for Mayo, who is the owner of this code? Is Mayo here today? Oh, and that is Ms. James, correct? Thank you. Any questions for Ms. James? All right, go ahead. And for code 0077U, right now we have the single suggestion of gap fill.
Jeez, sorry.
Okay, so let's move on to 0082U. This is a drug testing code for monitoring, and we're going to turn this over to Subcommittee B as in boy, so that's Dr. Chandra.
Thank you, Karen. We discussed the CPT code, and there was not a CPT code that was suitable for crosswalk that reflected the resources, so our recommendation is to gap fill.
Any questions or comments coming from those on the phone in the room? Any questions for the owner of this code, which is Precision Diagnostics? Okay, seeing/hearing none, we're going to go on to voting for 0082U. Right now, the single suggestion was for gap fill. So let's go on to item 230085U, and this is a code which the owner indicated that it will probably be removed and retired by AMA CPT, and I believe the owner of this is Commonwealth Diagnostics International. Are they here? Dr. Radensky? So would you approach the mic for me real quick, please? Thanks. I just want to confirm it has not yet been deleted. Is that correct? I think it's on, yeah. You should be okay.
Yeah. Yes, the way the PLA codes work, if you want to delete, it's at the discretion of the sponsor, but you have to submit and then go through the process. So it will be, it's in this quarter, and so it will be, they'll announce it by the end of September, and then the effective date would be January 1 of the deletion.
So as of today, this code has not been deleted. So
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So the way CMS would like to handle this is this code has not been deleted, so we are not going to make the assumption that it will be deleted because we do not control AMA, CPT, PLA tag group. So I would ask that the committee, the FACA panel, consider making a recommendation on this code with the understanding of what you just heard, right? But at this time, we don't know for a fact that this code will be deleted. We are waiting to get AMA's result. We had a similar situation last year in which the owner of the code was going to have its code descriptor modified in the third quarter of last year, which they did, but the decision on the part of CMS was to treat it as it would be any other new code. So I asked the committee and subcommittee B as in boy, Dr. Chandra, if you have any suggestions on what you would recommend to, for this code, be it gap fill or crosswalk at this time.
Then the recommendation would be gap fill.
Thank you. Any other recommendations, questions, concerns, discussion regarding the recommendation for gap fill from those on the phone or in the room? Do you have any questions for Dr. Rodensky, who is representing this code? All right, then I would say please go ahead and vote, and your ballot item in this situation would be gap fill.
Waiting on one.
So we're still waiting for one more person to cast their vote.
Can everyone check they have one choice highlighted on their screen? Just double check for me.
Dr. Arcilla?
Yes. Yeah, I did cast my vote, but it's now not letting me go through.
Let's see. Well, at least we know where the trouble is.
Yes, I'm the troublemaker. It just says an unknown error has occurred.
Okay. I'm going to clear the results. If everybody could try one more time, please.
Did that go through?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so for 0085U, the single ballot item, although we had not entered this, was gap fill. The voting is complete. We're going to move on to item 240092U. This is an oncology lung-related test, and we're going to turn this over to Subcommittee B as in boy. Dr. Chandra?
Thank you, Karen. We discussed this as a committee, and again, we did not feel that there was a CPT code that was suitable enough for a crosswalk, and hence our recommendation is to gap fill.
Thank you. Anybody from this Subcommittee B who wants to add any comments, has any questions for their fellow panel members? Panel members here in the room, do you have any questions? Dr. Schoonmaker?
Did we look at 81539, oncology, high-grade prostate cancer biochemical assay for proteins utilizing plasma or serum prognostic algorithm? I'm not sure how the technology of biochemical assay versus magnetic nanosensor technology, if that would be similar.
And I think we did entertain a couple of CPT codes, but I don't think that there was a comfortable enough feeling amongst everyone on the committee that that would be a solid crosswalk.
Dr. Schoonmaker?
Oh, that clarified things.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
No, that was clarifying enough. Thank you.
So is your desire to keep that as a crosswalk? The answer is no. Does anybody have questions for the owner of this code? And I have it as, is it Magaray? Anybody here who owns that code? None. Okay. Anybody have any other questions or concerns? So for code 0092U, crosswalk 81538 and gap fill are your current ballot items. Please cast your vote.
Okay.
So we're moving on to the next item, item 25, and that is 0093U. And this is a prescription drug monitoring code. It was reviewed by Subcommittee B as in boy. This is Dr. Chandra. I'm turning that over to Dr. Chandra.
Thanks, Karen. And we reviewed this CPT code, and we came up with a crosswalk recommendation of 0006U times 0.05, which we feel is reasonable for a crosswalk CPT code recommendation here.
We also have another crosswalk from Subcommittee B as 80307. Do the members of Subcommittee B want to comment on that suggestion as well?
That was another CPT code that potentially has similar resources, and so we've listed it here as an alternate secondary option.
Any questions from the panel members here?
This is Vicki Baselski. May I ask, please, what the justification for the 0.05 is?
And this is Pranil Chandra. I'd like to defer to one of my committee members if they have any comments to that question.
So Dr. Hansen, Dr. Schoonmaker, and Ms. Chappell, would you like to add any comments on the question?
Yeah, I believe from the conversation that we had, 006U had 120 plus analytes, and the proposed code 0093U is 65. So we did a 0.05 of 0006U.
And that was Ms. Heather Chappell speaking. Dr. Clark?
Yeah, this one is.
So the 0.0006U is 120 analytes, and this is 65, right?
So code 0006U, and the multiplier is 0.05.
Right, 0.05 is like 5%, right? Yeah, that's my question. Did you mean because it's about half the number of analytes, do you need a 0.5 modifier or a 0.05? Because those are obviously very different.
Yeah, we meant 0.5.
All right.
So that's the clarifier.
Okay. Dr. Harris, did you have a question?
Yeah, that was the same.
Got it. So let it be recorded that the crosswalk 006U times 0.05 is a typographical error, and it was meant to be 006U times 0.5, or based on 50% of the analytes in 0093U relative to code 006U. Dr.
And this
Bossler?
is Dr. Chandra. I apologize for that clerical oversight.
No
Thank you,
problem.
everyone.
Dr. Bossler?
Yeah, so just to add one more wrinkle to this, there's several drug testing codes that are G codes that were developed by CMS in response to some of the multi-analyte drug testing. Did any of the subcommittee consider those, or any of the chemists here, can they speak to that at all, with whether that would help us in trying to determine the pricing here?
We did not consider those, but I'm happy to entertain suggestions from those with chemistry and specific expertise and background.
So, Dr. Bosler, I'm assuming you're talking about the codes in which it's like the CMS created codes for drug testing using the AMA CPT drug categories, any form of analysis, and then it's tiered by 1 to 5, and I'm blanking on the actual code numbers.
Yeah,
So-
there were 4 tiers. This
Right.
is Bill Clark. There were those 4 tiers meant to take advantage of economies of scale when you're doing
Correct.
these large multiplex.
And it's G, I'm blanking.
0, 481,
Yes,
482.
483. So is the question whether those also should be a crosswalk, one of those for these 65 analytes here?
Yes.
Well, my perspective is, I guess when I looked at it, I didn't consider, because that would have applied to one of the previous ones we just discussed in this group. I think the 90 analyte panel, and that would be under the same, the one from Precision, right? So that would be the same type of approach. And so I didn't consider those G codes as options. I was looking specifically at crosswalking to the existing CPT codes rather than any of the G codes. So then the question would be, like in this instance, we're crosswalking this to code 0006U, and then whatever 6U is crosswalked to ultimately, whether that's gap filled or whether that's, has a line drawn to the G codes. I can't speak to that. I don't remember. It probably was discussed in a previous iteration, but the same things applied. I just didn't know, and maybe I should have known, that G codes were an option for these crosswalking. I thought we had to crosswalk to the existing CPT codes.
So it sounds like there are a few questions that need to be answered. The first one is, what was 0006U crosswalk to in the past? And then the second question, based on what the answer is for that, we may indeed propose another crosswalk, which may be one of the G 0481, 2, 3, or 4. Is that where we're heading?
I think that's an important question to answer because, when you get, I know that whether it's 60 or 90 or 120, those would all fall into the top tier of the G codes, because I think the top cutoff of that was like 35 drugs or something, right? And that's going to be important because if 0006U was crosswalked to that top tier of G codes, I don't think it would be appropriate to half that, because that G code structure was already set up to accommodate economies of scale, to the scalability. And so if 0006U is crosswalked to the upper level G code, then I don't think that you should half of it. So I think that question of what's 6U's crosswalk to is important to answer before we make a final determination here.
So this is what I'm going to ask the CLFS staff to do. No, hold on. I'm going to ask that this be looked at later on today, and we're going to move this code back into the queue so that we can just keep on marching through these codes. We will do the background check, and when we are ready, they will let me know, and we'll either bring this at the end of the chemistry codes or interject it, if that's okay with the panel. Let us look up the answers to get these to everyone. All right? So for the record, item 25, code 0093U, we're going to move this to the end of the queue for chemistry, and this will give us time to look up the answers. And for the record, we have are 0006U times 0.5, 80307, and then the two questions about what the crosswalk was in the past, the 006U, when it occurred, what was the crosswalk relative to the creation of G0481 through 484. And Sarah, go ahead, you have a question?
We have all the information here if you want to continue with this.
Are you guys going to give them the information?
Yes, we have it right here.
Perfect. We have a very slick CLFS team. They just pulled everything up, and they're going to give you the information to these questions. Before we go, Dr. Harris?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a clarifying question when the research is done on these codes as well, just that the G codes, I believe, are quantitative reporting codes, and I just wanted to clarify that this code, the 0093U, is detected versus not detected as opposed to
it's the qualitative
quantitative code.
Are the G codes
So let me,
are they quantitative or definitive?
they're both.
The lower.
So let me read to you what, and this is G. Okay, I'm going to let Sarah handle this. G0483. We'll read to you the code descriptor.
So I just want to start with the first question, though, because that'll inform this discussion. 0006U was introduced in 2016. That was crosswalked to G0483. So Dr. Clark, you're correct that is at the sort of top end of the tiered codes of the drugs of abuse. The relevant aspects of the code descriptor, I believe to your questions, are that in the code descriptor it's described as qualitative or quantitative. It includes specimen validity testing per day, 22 or more drug classes, including metabolites if performed.
Yeah, so if it can be either, then the detected, non-detected is okay. And it's definitive testing. It's meant to differentiate between immunoassays, which are mostly class-based tests, like the opioids, versus you can do a mass spec-based screening that's qualitative, and it gives you the specific drug or metabolite, and you don't have to worry about the cross-reactivity. And so that's what these large multiplexed panels typically are. And so the G0483 is probably the appropriate one, but as you mentioned, it's 22 or more. So I don't think if 006U is crosswalked to that G code, I don't think that you half this code. I think that you just do a direct crosswalk to 0006U.
Thank you. Dr. Chandra?
And thank you, Dr. Clark. This is obviously not our area of expertise, so I appreciate the feedback and clarification, and I'm okay with having that as a potential crosswalk.
So, okay, so I want to hear from Ms. Chappell, and then we need to clarify what crosswalks we're talking about.
So I just want to just be clear that the G codes refer to classes and not numbers of drugs. So I don't know how many classes 65 common drugs represents, because it's not in the descriptor. So does 65 common drugs equal 22 or more classes?
Dr. Clark?
So I think that's a matter of imprecise language. So it would include like opioids as that, but I'm not aware of 60 classes of drugs or 30 classes of drugs. So some of the drugs are sort of considered as individualized, and I don't do the coding, so I'm not so, I can't tell how people are making those determinations, but I think my understanding of the issue is typically people are understanding that to be these large, it's 22 classes or individuals. Some of the drugs that stand alone, like the illicit drugs, because it includes these panels. The G codes were typically, this issue came about around the pain management screening, so that the classes of drugs, but then there's some of those, like how do you classify some of the newer semi-synthetic analogs? Do they stand alone, or are they part of a bigger class? I don't have the answer to that. I just kind of turn over our resources to our billing folks, and they handle the coding. But I don't know about the 22 or 30 different classes of drugs.
So I want to hear from Dr. Kroc and then Ms. Chappell.
Thank you. Yeah, there'd be no way to know exactly from number of analytes to classes without seeing their entire list of what every one of those anticipates. I mean, guessing how this is generally done, it probably does fall over that if it's clinically, they're pretty common in the industry, but I couldn't say for sure without seeing their list.
Ms. Chappell?
So for me, without knowing specifically, I would not necessarily feel comfortable with a G0483 direct crosswalk on this code.
Thank you. I also want to point out the code descriptor, not that it's that much of a bigger help, but it says common drugs. If you look at the AMA CPT manual, the list of drug categories will help you understand some of the drugs that are being monitored.
Is the lab here? Is the lab here?
Ms. Chappell?
One other piece of this for me, I believe that G0480, G0481 are qualitative codes specifically.
Go up.
No.
They are both as well.
Yeah, they're both as well. All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, they all are. The difference is just the number of classes.
So what I'm hearing so far is that we are going to keep 0066U times 0.5? Is that, or we are going to use its crosswalk without the multiplier? Dr. Kroc?
I would just do the straight crosswalk.
Ms. Chappell?
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with that, but I can vote differently, right?
So this is the time in which you present and decide what you want to vote on, and CMS will take into account the public comments that we will hopefully receive from this lab, as well as from the specialty societies and other labs who care to comment. It's not a matter of trying to be exclusive, but rather inclusive. So I am hearing, okay, so this is what we're going to do. All those in favor of keeping 0006U times 0.5 as a choice for a crosswalk, please raise your hand and hold it up. So what and then the folks on the phone, do you want to keep 0006U times 0.5 as well?
Yes.
Yes, based on the comments that were here, I think it's important to have the options for the voting members.
All right. Are we keeping 80307 as well? Ms. Chappell?
That would be the code I'd be most comfortable with.
Thank you. All right, so then the other code is G0484, is that correct? Excuse me, 483? Any dissension with that? So, Dr. Harris?
All right, I just wanted to make sure I understood the earlier comment that the 0006U has previously been crosswalked to G0483, correct? So if either one is an option, it's the same choice. Is that correct?
No.
0006U or G0483 were previously crosswalked together?
No. The choices right now are as it is on the screen, which is 006U times 0.5.
Well, no, my question was, Dr. Clark had previously asked about 0006U, and how had that previously been crosswalked?
Go ahead, Sarah.
So yes, you're correct. Part of that's correct, that 0006U was crosswalked to GO483 originally.
Okay.
But that was also 3 years ago. So they are now distinct codes with distinct, I don't know for sure, but they've gone through a data collection process, so there would be distinct information, payment information on either. So they are considered different codes now. They were once, you're right, they were once crosswalked, but it's been 3 years, so they're now distinct. So they would be distinct votes.
Okay.
And we would
Thanks.
meet, and from what I'm understanding from Subcommittee B, you would, the multiplier of 0.5 would be maintained with 0006U. So, any other questions? All right, so it seems the choices are 0006U times 0.5, crosswalk to 080307, and crosswalk to G0483. And so I would say cast your vote.
1 sec. I have to give it to him. Okay, you should now see it. Did someone hit clear?
I didn't this time.
Oh, good, okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next code, which is item 260095U. It's a eosinophilic esophagitis related code, and we're going to turn this over to Dr. Chandra from Subcommittee B as in boy.
Hi, Karen. Thanks. We discussed this amongst the committee. 81539, we looked at that CPT code, and it's a 4-protein biochemical assay. And the 0095U is a 2-protein ELISA assay, and so we felt that the most appropriate crosswalk here would be 81539 times 0.5.
Thank you. Any comments from those on the phone? Any other comments from the Subcommittee B as in boy members? Any questions or comments, concerns from any of the members here in the room? Any questions for the owner of this code? So it's my understanding then your crosswalks to vote on are for 0095U, 81539, or 81539 times 0.5.
Can everyone please confirm you have a highlighted selection on your screen? Perfect.
All right, can we move on?
We're good.
Okay, so we're now going to go to item 27, which is 80XX0. We're going to go through a series of codes. They all belong to Mayo, and these are drug testing codes. So I'm going to turn this over to Subcommittee C, and this is 80XX0.
Okay. So the first test is, so there are, out of these 6 codes that Karen referred to, 3 of them are therapeutic antibodies, and then 3 of them are more standard testing for therapeutic drugs. But they're all treated somewhat the same. So, when we start through this, we'll, most of what I say for the first one will apply to the remainder of the therapeutic antibodies. And so the first one is 80XX0, which is adalimumab. And this is, in talking to the testing lab and also in looking at the way that it's approached, we determined that the proposed crosswalk was to caffeine 80155, meaning the methodology and resources were similar for this drug. And so, and we agreed with that proposed crosswalk. So our consensus is crosswalk to 80155.
Any questions from those on the phone? Here in the room? Please cast your vote. Your crosswalk for 80XX0 is crosswalk 80155.
Okay.
So the next code is item 28, 80XX1. It is infliximab. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Clark.
Yeah. So this is the same rationale. It's a therapeutic monitoring of this antibody. The proposed crosswalk was 80155, and we agreed with that.
Any questions from those here in the room, on the phone? So please cast your vote for either gap fill or crosswalk 80155.
Okay.
So let's move on to item 29, 80XX2, lacosamide, Subcommittee C, Dr. Clark.
So this one is slightly different. So for the first 2, there weren't class-specific codes existing for therapeutic drug monitoring. And so the laboratory had proposed the crosswalk to caffeine. In this case, lacosamide is an anti-epileptic drug, and the proposed crosswalk is to tiagabine, which is also an anti-epileptic drug. So the consensus crosswalk from our subcommittee is 80199.
Any questions from those on the phone? Looks like nobody has questions here on the floor. Let's go to your ballot for 80XX2 lacosamide, crosswalk 80199.
Okay.
All right, item 30, and this is 802X0, and this is for, I think it's pronounced posaconazole, and it's also with Dr. Clark's Subcommittee C.
Yeah, this is not an anti-epileptic drug, but the proposer chose this crosswalk, and we agreed with it again. It's similar technology, and so posaconazole is an antifungal, and the lab proposed 80199, and we agreed with that proposed crosswalk.
So for 802XO posaconazole, your ballot item is 80199 in gap fill. So item 31802XX, I believe it's pronounced vedolizumab, also of Dr. Clark, Subcommittee C.
So this is another therapeutic antibody similar to the first two, and so for consistency, we supported the crosswalk to 80155 caffeine.
Any comments from the folks here in the room? None. And on the phone? None. So for 802XX vedolizumab, crosswalk 80155 or gap fill? All right, item 32802X1. And this is voriconazole, Dr. Clark, Subcommittee C.
Yeah, so this is similar to posaconazole, same family of antifungal. The same crosswalk was proposed, and for consistency, we agreed that that was appropriate. So the proposed crosswalk is 80199 tiagabine.
Any questions from those on the phone? None. In the room? None. For 802X1, voriconazole, crosswalk 80199 or gap fill? So item 330-105U, this is a nephrology, chronic kidney disease related test, and we're going to turn this over to Subcommittee C, Dr. Clark.
So the proposed crosswalk from the laboratory was 0003U, which is a multi-analyte protein panel, and then an accompanying algorithmic index looking at probability of disease. 3U is for ovarian cancer recurrence. This is for chronic kidney disease. But aside from the different application, everything else is relatively similar. It's electrochemiluminescent immunoassay for these 4 or 5 proteins, and then an algorithm looking at the probability, some score of health. And so we felt that that proposed crosswalk was appropriate. So we're recommending a crosswalk to 0003U.
Any comments from those on the phone here in the room? None. Any questions for the owner of this test, which is Renalytics? Okay, so for 0105U, the ballot items are 0003U or gap fill.
Okay.
Item 34-0106U, this is a gastric emptying serial collection, breath specimen collection for CO2 excretion, and this was with Subcommittee C, Dr. Clark.
Yeah, we didn't find anything comparable to this in terms of timed breath collections, looking at the rate of this isotopically labeled CO2 production, and so we recommended gap fill.
Any questions from those on the phone in the room? Any questions for the owner of this lab? Okay, so your choices are gap fill, and this is for code 0106U.
Okay.
So item 350107U, this is a C. diff toxin antigen test, Subcommittee C, Dr. Clark.
So we looked at this. What the laboratory proposed was a crosswalk to 87803 times 3. And we had difficulty justifying the times 3 multiplier when it was 2 tests. And so we looked at the descriptor and we felt that 87803 closely matches the test. You see that it has some, Singulex has some justification there regarding the sensitivity and specificity of the test performance, but it was unclear regarding the resource. It says it has a higher resource cost, but we weren't clear on what that is.
So before we go on, Dr. Clark, do you want to ask that question of the owner of this test?
Are they here?
Do we have somebody from Singulex here? Okay, I kind of, no, they are not here. So go ahead, Dr. Schoonmaker.
Oh, go ahead.
No, she may be fixing it. There was an error on the bar.
You got it.
Yeah, so I mean, we looked at that, and it's 2 immunoassay tests, 1 each analyte, and again, absent of if there's any additional preparation relative to the other types of tests, we just felt like if there are 2 tests in this single code,
Yes.
then it should just be a multiplier of times 2.
Okay. Dr. Kroc, do you have anything you want to add to that? No. Dr. Carroll?
So I do have a conflict of interest with this company, but I can clarify the technology, so I'm just asking for whether I can comment on the technology.
Yes, go ahead and share your insight.
So this is really not a simple immunoassay. It is a complicated instrument that does have a significant amount of hands-on time prior to loading the sample onto the instrument. So I'm not sure that the crosswalk is appropriate.
So maybe to understand a little bit better, so you said there's more hands-on time. Is that because of the way the automation is designed, or is
Yes.
that due to the sample type? So
It's the old TCAN instrument. Are you familiar
Right.
with that TCAN technology? So there is a significant amount of sample prep prior to loading the sample onto the TCAN instrument.
But that's more matrix related, right? I mean, yes, it's a TCAN, but the reason you need more sample prep time is because you're working from a solid sample as opposed to whatever. I'll have to look back up 87803. But it just doesn't say the matrix
Anyway,
type.
I do think it's a more highly complex assay than your typical immunoassay. So that's
Yep.
my comment.
So, Dr. Carroll, are you saying that the crosswalk of 87803 times 3, the multiplier of 3, is a more appropriate multiplier?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Kroc?
Just going to ask Dr. Carroll if she thought gap fill was more appropriate then, if the technology is so different.
Well, it is an immunoassay. I think it's just a more complicated one. So
Is there another CBT code that would take into consideration that upfront prep? I don't remember in the infectious disease codes if there would be one, but maybe there's something else.
This is Vicki Basowski. Could I propose 87324, which is infectious agent antigen detection by immunoassay technique? So it's not an optical immunoassay, it's a classical immunoassay, and then it's Clostridium difficile toxins, plural, 87324.
But, so do you still need a multiplier for that because of the complexity?
If it's done as one assay unit, and Dr. Carroll would be able to answer that, I would not propose a multiplier based on the information I have at this point.
I think the 87803 times 3 makes more sense to me.
Because I think that, so, Dr. Veselski, I think I understand what you're saying, which is the new proposed code does have the S in parentheses, so it could be a multiplex type test, but I don't think the multiplexing, well, number one, I don't know if that takes into account the cost of reagent, because it's not just the effort, it's the cost of reagent. If you have multiple antibodies, that would increase the cost. But what I'm hearing is this is done not, say, on an automated chemistry analyzer, but more some offline type of automation because of specifically the sample type. Both our proposed code and your proposed code are just broad, not specific to a particular matrix, whereas this is specific to stool, where you couldn't just put that type. I mean, it'd be similar to like whole blood analysis on a chemistry analyzer. It requires some offline treatment, which would be, and we didn't take that into account when we had our discussion, and I think it's a pertinent point. So we didn't take into account any of the offline sample preparation prior to introduction to the instrument. And so I think probably an additional modifier would be appropriate in this case. But in either case, whether it's our proposed code or yours, I still think you have to account for the fact that you're working with stool as the matrix.
If I could respond, this is Vicki Basowski. Two points. 87803 is an optical immunoassay, so it's a visually read assay. So I have concerns about that. 87324 is specific for C. difficile, and so that would be a stool matrix.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't familiar with that, so that's very helpful.
Dr. Carroll?
So if we go with 87324, and I understand Dr. Veselski's rationale because it is a C. diff test, I think we still need to apply the multipliers because of the complexity of the test.
So okay.
I mean, this is not an easy test to perform. There's daily and weekly maintenance that's pretty significant, and there is a sample prep step prior to loading it on the instrument. But I agree it's not an optical immunoassay because the machine does the interpretation of the results. So if there's another immunoassay for C. diff that is more appropriate, that's not an optical immunoassay, that would seem to be appropriate. However, again, this test would likely be more complex than a standard ELISA or immunoassay.
Is this assay reported as two separate results, one for toxin A and one for toxin B?
Yes, there are two separate results.
Then I would agree with a modifier times 2 for 87324.
Yeah, I actually think I think that's right. If that code is specific to stool, then the processing of the stool would be accounted for in, hypothetically at least, in the code itself. And then because you get two individual results, if you do the ×2 modifier, that would account for the complexity of doing the two individual tests.
Okay, sounds reasonable.
So this is what we're going to do. It sounds like we are going to add to our current choices of 87803 times 3, 87803 times 2. We're going to add 87324 times 2. And do we have any more comments? I think Dr. Kroc, were you going to say something? Okay. Okay. And then, obviously, if you have a conflict of interest, the understanding would be recusal if you have a conflict of interest. So, having said that, does Sarah want to say something?
Just briefly, I did add the option, you should see it on your screen, but if you had previously voted before I added that option, I cleared the results, so you will have to vote again. So again, just confirm on your screen that you have a highlighted option.
Right, so the What you're not seeing on the current screen is the added crosswalk of 87324 times 2. So please cast your vote accordingly.
Okay, just everyone do me a quick favor. Check your screen has at least one option highlighted. Nice. Thank you very much.
All right, so I know we had said we were going to run till noon. However, I was unaware that next door is a new employee meeting. So I'm going to stop now, because this will give you a chance to get to the cafeteria and not stand in long lines. And so we are doing a very good job in terms of being efficient. And so I would say I would say come on back by 1:45, which will get us a chance to get everybody ready to go, and we will start we will pick up where we left off right now. So I would say if you need to purchase lunch, I would definitely head down to the cafeteria. So we will be reconvene, we will start at 1. So please try to be back here by 1:45 to get yourself ready. Thank you.